Rekieta Law is one of the pioneers of the LawTube sphere. Host of the channel, Nick Rekieta and his legal team would expertly break down all of the most popular trials in real time, taking something that is very dense and obtuse and converting it into something palatable for the layman. But like so many before him, Nick would quickly slide down the pitfalls of stardom: drugs, alcohol, women. All in front of hundreds of thousands of people watching live 7 nights a week, or maybe 5. But why don't we take a step back and see how Nick managed to destroy his own legacy? In 2017, a podcast by the name of The Biggest Problem in the Universe, whose original cast was Dick Masterson and Maddox, had gone their separate ways. This was a particularly messy breakup, which spilled out into the streets via social media and would evolve into Maddox suing Dick Masterson. This lawsuit was famous on the grounds that it was so poorly put together that the judge just ended up throwing it out because he didn't even really know what to do with it, saying, quote, "This complaint is such a mess. I can't address these issues because I can't specifically point out to what's being alleged." Fun fact, this abominable lawsuit would end up coining the term lawsuit, which is, it's like a lol cow, but for a legal proceeding. With the case becoming a giant meme amongst the legal community, Nick Rekieta, a real-world lawyer based out of a small town in Minnesota, would create a YouTube channel posting a video breaking down the case. At this time, insert adult with a real profession who you wouldn't expect to have a YouTube channel to give you insider insight on insert culturally relevant thing in their profession was still a novelty. This would include the LawTube genre of channel, making Nick and his channel a pioneer in that sense. Nick's coverage of this lawsuit would be favorably received on the platform and would lead to old Nick being invited onto Dick Masterson's newly formed show, The Dick Show, as a guest. This would of course instantly help Nick bolster a core audience online. From here, Nick began live streaming, getting his start by further breaking down the lawsuit in autistic detail. Out of the gate, Nick had a fairly regular schedule and would eventually move to streaming nearly daily. According to Nick's post on Kiwi Farms, a website we'll get into a little later, he invented reading all super chats out loud, regardless of how much money was donated. This, of course, is common practice by most smaller streamers nowadays, but was an innovative maneuver to help Nick quickly grow a connection with his fans. At least I'm under the assumption that this part of the Kiwi Farms post is correct. I actually couldn't corroborate this any other place online, so take this with a grain of salt. Old Nick's first breakout video on the platform was covering Vic Mignogna's situation. Vic, a well-established voice actor, had been hit with SA allegations during the height of the Me Too movement. These allegations had come just days after the release of the film Dragon Ball Super: Broly, in which he had voiced the titular villain, or anti-hero. He voiced Broly is what I'm trying to say. This led to Vic being blackballed from Hollywood and being dropped by Funimation, the American company which was in charge of the dubs, as well as from Rooster Teeth, where he had voiced a character on that network. On top of being dropped from or being recast in all his future voice acting jobs, he would also be banned from many anime conventions he was contracted to speak at. Vic denied all of the allegations being levied against him. Now listen, I don't know if Vic did it or not at the end of the day. He was specifically being accused of essaying women. I don't know if Vic is in or out of the closet, but just listen to him speak for a couple minutes.
Where'd this come from?
I drew that.
You did this?
Yes. I drew that.
Oh, Dustin.
There is no world where these allegations could possibly be true, even for a second. Also, he was on Alex Stein's show. I like Alex Stein, so I'm gonna trust Alex Stein on this one.
Now, this is the beautiful woman that created Trans Visibility Day.
That totally looks like the Penguin from Batman.
It is.
It looks exactly like
Danny DeVito from Batman.
It is a Danny DeVito impersonator almost, but that is a beautiful woman, according to the government, and it's also the creator of Trans Visibility Day, so she's a beautiful icon.
Non-woke anime fans would also come to this conclusion, that this was nothing more than part of the Me Too hysteria that had grabbed a hold of the minds of testosterone-challenged individuals like some sort of virus in 2019. Nick would release a video coming to Vic's defense, and at the end of said video, he promoted a GoFundMe for Vic to help pay for his legal fees. Fans of anime and justice
Don't f with me. I have the power of God and anime on my side.
would unite and donate over $262,000. And Nick would also help Vic get set up with an attorney, Ty Beard. Vic and Ty would go on to sue Funimation and Rooster Teeth for defamation and tortious interference. But unfortunately, the lawsuit failed spectacularly. Many pointed the finger at Nick for recommending Ty Beard because Ty was a family friend of Nick's and who did not specialize in civil litigation. Either way, this would enter old Nick into the fray on the right wing of the culture war, opening him up to a new circle of collaborators, live streaming and podcasting with the likes of The Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, Yellow Flash Guy, etc. His popularity and reach within and outside of the LawTube community would lead his fans into dubbing him the Pope of LawTube. Though old Nick's bread and butter would still be analyzing court cases on lengthy live streams. There are two periods where old Nick saw the most growth, which was during the Kyle Rittenhouse and the Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp trials. These two events would propel his channel to over 400,000 subscribers on YouTube alone. During the Rittenhouse trial, old Nick would do daily streams with a panel of lawyers breaking it down like a black guy's reacting to rap music channel.
Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor.
The Rittenhouse streams proved to be extremely popular, with viewership peaking at over 100,000 concurrent viewers, which, if you're unfamiliar with the world of streaming, 100,000 concurrent viewers is insane. That's like A tier level streaming. The other series of streams that blew up Rekieta Law was his coverage of the Amber Heard v Johnny Depp trials. Though this trial was placating to his core audience, since he and his entourage of legal associates would break down the trial from an expert's perspective, it also brought in a new fan base. By the very nature of the trial having an element of celebrity gossip to it, Nick, by all accounts, managed to wrangle in the wine mom demographic. In July of 2022, old Nick would be hit with his first suspension on YouTube, which lasted 10 days.
YouTube decided, in their infinite wisdom, to suspend me.
From what I gather on a stream not too long after the Heard v Depp trial, he was reviewing footage of the same case. One of the clips he had shown had been run through YouTube's Content ID system, leading to the media giant NBC issuing a strike on Rekieta Law's channel. By the way Nick handles himself and viewing content on his channel, I could almost guarantee that this for sure fell under fair use law, but either way, NBC proceeded and YouTube would end up suspending his channel for 10 days. This is significant because, for those who don't know, YouTube works on a 3 strikes and your channel's permanently deleted system. A few months after his suspension in September of 2022, old Nick's political/cultural stances would embroil him in a feud with everyone's favorite content creator, Keffals. Nick's a free speech advocate, and at one time was a celebrated figure amongst Kiwi Farms, even having its creator Null on his stream as a guest a few times. If you're unaware, Kiwi Farms originally had started out as a forum site documenting lolcow legend Chris Chan. The original name of the site was Quickie Forums, with the CWC standing for Christian Weston Chandler, or his original name, Christopher Weston Chandler. If you're interested in Chris Chan lore, I did a 3.5-hour video essay on him, so go check that out if you want. I'm sure it's playing on screen right now. The site would eventually morph into a forum celebrating the life and times of all lolcows. Now, I don't mean to paint over Kiwi Farms as all peaches and rainbows. The site is vigorously pro-free speech, to the point that they won't remove posts where people are being doxxed. They've also been tied to some tragic events, including being blamed for 3 people offing themselves and the Christchurch shooting. But I do admit that I don't know enough about Kiwi Farms to definitively put that kind of stank on them. It's very clear that Kiwi Farms has become the target of progressive liberals who use information as their tool, their favorite tool of warfare. So getting a straight picture of what the website is a little difficult. I'm sure it's not as bad as being made out to be on certain popular mainstream liberal sites, but I think it's probably pretty safe to say that Kiwi Farms likes to harass lol cows. And if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing to my channel and sharing it with 10 people, because if you don't, you'll be cursed with bad luck for 7 years or something. Keffals attacked Kiwi Farms with false allegations of her being doxxed by the website, which of course turned out not to be true. Regardless, because she didn't personally like the forum talking shit about her, Keffals campaigned to have it shut down by targeting Cloudflare, a popular cybersecurity site. While these events were taking place in a retaliatory manner, old Nick would go on stream and read the entire Keffals post on Kiwi Farms. During the reading, he'd get to the part where there were screenshots of her tweets bragging about giving bathtub hormones to naive teenagers. Unaware of Keffals' insane actions and being a father of 5 himself, Nick would lose it and say this.
Who is apparently grooming minors on Discord and sending them HRT that he home makes in his bathtub without their parents' consent. Get the fucking wall ready, because I have something to hang on it.
Many would trace the death of old Nick back to August 27th, 2022. If you've noticed, I've been calling him Old Nick throughout the video. Somewhere down the line, as Nick's popularity and status grew, he began to lose sight of who he was as a person, a based right-wing lawyer who was preaching the importance of conservative relationships and family values. A trad husbando, if you will. That was the old Nick. The Nick we see locked up today is a complete 180 from where he started. It's almost like he's a different person. As I said on that fateful day in August, Nick opened a package on stream from a fan. The mysterious package from the nameless fan was a Chris Chan Sonichu medallion.
We were talking about last night. A Sonichu medallion has been passed to me. I don't know where this came from.
Again, I'm not describing the entire Chris Chan lore here, but collectively his fan base believes that this medallion was cursed, and like ingesting a small grain of polonium-210, Nick's body would begin to disintegrate from the inside. Realistically though, there are many factors that are in play in symphony with each other that are bringing Nick to the lowest point in his life. New Nick has a drinking problem. He's often, if not always, drinking on stream and would get pretty wasted publicly on a regular basis. Alcohol and being a content creator is a bit of a double-edged sword. If consumed in a well-paced manner, I think, like being drunk in a social situation, loosens you up, makes you more confident, and lowers your inhibitions. But when you let it slip out of your hands and the liquor begins to take control of you, it takes you to pretty dark places. And for a content creator, this means it's also being done publicly as well. It's a dance. Some can, some can't, and Nick falls into the latter camp. If you're unfamiliar with addiction, it's not an overnight thing. You don't generally drink your first beer and then directly go on a 3-day coke bender, which abruptly ends when you drive your 2011 Chevy Tahoe into a pregnant lady, hypothetically speaking, of course. These things happen over time. Red flags will pop up here and there, and as time goes on, these flags will continue to appear at an exponential rate. If you don't address these issues early on, then you can find yourself drowning in a sea of red flags, like opening the doors in The Shining, and eventually you can lose all sense of where your baseline is. Nick at this time hasn't passed that threshold just yet, but I say all this to say,
get the fucking wall.
That was a really weird thing to say. I don't totally understand if there's some kind of inside joke here, or maybe it's a term, a phrase that he uses quite often, but if I'm just separating this in and of itself, it was a weird thing to say, but I don't think it was a death threat, which was being claimed it was. At its core, I think what he was trying to say is that he just doesn't like Keffals and just wants to get her out of his life, out of his purview, hang her on the wall, so to speak. But Keffals, on the other hand, would claim that this was a death threat, or at least a call to violence. She'd use her bathtub hormone-taking teenage botnet to mass flag the video, getting Rekieta Law hit with his second YouTube strike within a 1-year period.
What did you do, Nick? Oh, well, that's the mystery, isn't it? What did I do? Well, I can tell you what I did not do. I did not call for violence or organized harassment against any individual or group of individuals at all.
Then, less than a month later, on October the 5th, 2022, Nick would get his third and final strike, getting his channel terminated forever. Keffel's trolls, not being pleased with Nick's channel only getting a second strike, decided to attack him IRL using his law firm as a vector for attack. They would submit ethics complaints to the bar in an attempt to get Nick disbarred and no longer able to be a practicing lawyer. These complaints are not submitted anonymously though, so Nick was able to find the submitters' identities of these 45 fake ethics complaints and then would go on a live stream that night and quote dox them. I say that in quotes because doxing them it didn't happen. They gave up their information publicly to submit these bogus ethical complaints against them to try and take his livelihood away from him. So in fact, this was not doxing at all. In any case, Keffel's troll army would then mass flag his channel for doxing, awarding him his third and final strike, getting his channel deleted forever. Well, until there was a massive backlash online and YouTube miraculously reinstated his channel, putting him back online. Prior to his reinstatement, Nick knew his channel growth on the website could not be guaranteed and had already been multicasting and uploading his videos to alt-tech platforms like Odyssey and Rumble. During the period that his YouTube channel had been taken down and deleted forever, old Nick would ink a non-exclusive deal with Rumble to ensure his future as a content creator. On the outside, this could be seen as a smart business move, but on the inside, Nick's life was completely out of control. Not unlike YouTube's 3-strike system, I believe Nick's downfall happened in a similar manner. His first strike as a human being would be his public alcoholism. Not saying that doing it privately is any better, but doing it publicly surely expedited the process. As Nick's battle with his demons got worse, he'd famously go on a 30-minute rant about a Kiwi Farms user / fan of his, who we will call John. For context, John wanted to off himself and reached out to Nick for help privately. Nick would detail this interaction on stream, making fun of John for being a degenerate loser.
Some of these Kiwi farmers, some of these commentators, not only do I know them, do I know their failures? Do I know their social security checks? Oh man, I cannot imagine being in the place that this man is, that he has to go to a YouTube streamer to beg for a shred of attention. Say, please, Rackets, I love you. I love you. I love you. Begging is embarrassing. I love you. My family hates me. I can't get a job. I'm so mentally handicapped. Like I can't do anything. I want to die. I want to put a bullet in my mouth, but I can't afford a gun. Texting me this, by the way. I'm like, hey, holy shit, brother, you want to kill yourself? Like, that's not good. No, I deserve to die. Well, I mean, probably, but seriously, no, that's not good. Can you buy an Uber and go to the hospital? No, I can't afford an Uber. You can't afford an Uber? Like $8. Man, that is embarrassing, right? I'm such a piece of shit. My family hates me. Nobody loves me. I'm just going to kill myself. You're messaging me. You're texting a YouTuber. Oh my God, man, that's embarrassing. Please don't kill yourself. First of all, you can't afford the bullets. You've already expressed that. You can't afford the Hardys that would kill you either. You're just you. You're just a useless pile of garbage. You can't afford an Uber to the hospital. Have you tried calling 911? No, I can't spell. I'm Korean. Literally just 911. No. How far are you from the hospital? 4 miles. Why don't you walk towards the hospital and then call 911, tell them where you're walking? Because you cannot do it. Oh my God, man.
Now, listening to this, John clearly was / is in a very low place, but he wasn't seriously about to off himself. By Nick's recanting, it seems like it was just a call for help. I don't 100% agree with all of Nick's sentiments, but there's some that I do in this clip. If John really needed help, he could have walked to the hospital like he said. Part of this exchange was probably this kid trying to get the attention of his favorite creator because he believes they have some weird parasocial relationship. I get that point, but at the same time, making that info public, even if there's no way to attach this story to a real person, well, John would still know who you're talking about. He essentially publicly humiliated this poor kid, and even if his cry for help was just that, then this public flogging in John's mind could have led to something much more darker. His second personal strike as a human would be Nick turning his back on his old audience. There's a great video by a creator named The Dragon's Treasure who was a fan of Nick's and even managed to grow his own channel through Nick, as well as his IRL business selling tea by advertising on Nick's live streams. If you want something more granular than I'm doing, I'd suggest checking out his video and his channel. I'll leave a link in the description. After the Heard v. Depp trial, Nick adopted a Wine Mom fanbase and would begin tailoring his content towards this new crowd while pushing out his old fans. His video and streams would move away from law content and into more internet drama. He would even begin reviewing his deviant sex toys.
So here you go. This is the Baldo. And this number, this is Drexel's, this is unused. But this number you got to do and shove your balls in there. And it's really terrifying that you might snap them shut.
Nick, as I said, portrayed himself as a, for a lack of better term, good Christian boy with a family of 5. But with his new half-drunk, horny older woman crowd, he'd begin to drop the veil on his personal life, letting his freak flag fly, and commit his third and final personal strike as a human, being public about his sexual deviancy. Well, in a grander sense, I think actually his next strike would have been oversharing, which is a common trait for people that become lol cows when they share too much of their personal lives, when they're too vulnerable, and then people take advantage of that. I really mumbled through the word vulnerable. Please don't hate me, I can't talk, I'm a big mumbly boy. For instance, these Wine Mom fans would DM spices to Nick through his locals, which is like a red pill Patreon, which he then shared with other subscribers on his locals. Again, this would be seen as a complete 180 from the person he previously was by his old fans. Kiwi Farm accounts would use the power of anime and autism to find out that Nick and his wife Kayla had gone to hedonism in Jamaica, a drug-fueled orgy for middle-aged white couples. This would lead to Nick revealing that he and his wife are swingers. Kayla would also post spices to his locals for all of his fans to see. Nick and Kayla would even begin to transition their marriage into a throuple. The Steel Toe Morning Show is a live stream which was previously hosted by a married couple, Aaron and April Imholte. Friendly with Nick and Kayla, they had gone to their place to hang out and party. This whole situation seems extremely messy. Aaron and April had been having marital problems and both of them seemed to be heavy drinkers on top of that. I say all this to say after the trip to the Rekietas, Nick had introduced April to cocaine and Molly and ketamine. You know, like the fun stuff. April decided to take a break from Aaron and stay with the Rekietas, effectively breaking up their marriage. Also, to be clear, I'm just assuming that this turned into a throuple. I don't have any like hard evidence of that, but come on. And all of this leads to Nick's most recent stream, which I'm sure you've all seen the clip of, mainly because I had it at the beginning of the video. Nick was clearly so wasted that he tried to balance himself out with cocaine, only to become a sloppy, blacked out mess. At one point, he even seems to be jerking off.
Why is my camera still on?
Whether or not he managed to goon stain is still up in the air, but I'd be impressed if his dick still worked under that level of intoxication. Crazily enough, as of me recording this, that clip only happened 2 nights ago, and as of just a few hours ago, Nick, Kayla, and April have all been arrested on drug charges and firearm possession. It's too early for more details at the time. I just need to self-correct on a couple things here. Since I recorded this, the arraignment for this case has already happened. So through that, we learned a lot more information. It turns out that somebody contacted the police about the throuple on the 16th, days before his coked out goon stream. So it seems like this case was already in the works, meaning the stream might be unrelated. During Nick's arraignment, he would represent himself, being charged with 3 counts. 1 count of possession of 25 grams or more of coke or meth. And if you know anything about coke or meth, that's a lot. I mean, it's almost a pound. I'm pretty sure that this crosses the line into intent to distribute, which is why he's being charged with a felony, carrying a maximum sentence of 25 years in jail and up to a $500,000 fine. The second count is possession of a firearm in the vicinity of drugs and children. This is just a misdemeanor, carrying a maximum sentence of 1 year minus 1 day and a $3,000 fine. And the final count is endangering his children because of the drugs and the firearms. This is also a misdemeanor and also carries a maximum sentence of 1 year minus 1 day and a $3,000 fine. Nick was let out on a $50,000 bond under the conditions that he doesn't drink or do drugs or have firearms. To be clear, the bondsman will cover the 50, with Nick putting something up like his house for collateral, and he'll only need to pay 10% of that to get out of jail, which is $5,000. Towards the end of his hearing, we do get some bombshell news, with Nick asking the judge if he could speak to his clients, aka Kayla and April, meaning he, at least for the arraignments, wanted to represent them as their lawyer, as well as them being his co-defendants. But that's not even the bombshell news. The bombshell is that the state informed the court that April had been released earlier that morning, meaning she never had an arraignment hearing, and that there's now the possibility that she cut a deal with the state, snitching on Nick and Kayla, in exchange for a lighter sentence. Nick was granted the chance to speak to his wife as her lawyer, and clearly just instructed her on exactly what to say. She was charged with the same 3 counts and had the same bail conditions. I don't know what the situation at Nick's house is at the moment, and if his 5 kids were taken away by Child Protective Services. It's very possible, but it's too early to tell at the moment. But I can say things are not looking good. Nick and his wife and April's alcoholism, content decisions, and sexual degenerate liberal elite lifestyle would shatter the image of the quaint rural couple to the core audience, who began to find their entertainment elsewhere. His disconnect from old Nick and his public degenerate behavior over the years would take this once Kiwi Farms golden boy and turn him lol cow, even winning lol cow of the year in 2023. It's a sad state to see, man. Like, just a much beloved content creator in the space being torn down by, drugs, alcohol, and women, like we've seen so many times in the past. I think the moral of this story at the end of the day is don't mess with Kiwi Farms.